who lived between the years 1530 to 1593. His name was Rabbi Judah Moscato. Very great rabbi. He was a rabbi, he was a poet, he was a philosopher, naturally in the 16th century. He was born in an area called Osimo, near Ancona, and he passed away in Mantua. Let's just say there was a huge anti-Semitic issues of the Jews in Pontifical estates, and it worsened under Paul, I think the 4th or the 6th, I'm not sure, from 1555. So Rabbi Judah Moscato went to the home of his kinsman, Minzi Bere Tero at Mantua, where he would enjoy, let's say, society and instruction of the foremost Jews of his time, including the brothers Moshe and David, and Rabbi Yehuda Provençal, and another famous person, Azaria de Rossi. Naturally, I think come with the year 1587, he would go on to become the chief rabbi of Mantua, a very prominent position. He was, let's just say, a true person of the Renaissance. He was well versed in classical languages and literature, and had sympathy with their spirit. Like many of his contemporaries, he believed that the ancient civilization and all the language or culture were derived from Judaism, naturally, and that it was a duty of Jews to acquire these branches of knowledge. That was one of the things he very much advocated, of which they had once been the masters of. He was widely read, especially in philosophy, and again, like other contemporaries, although he was an admirer of Rabbi Yehuda Levi and the Maimonides, he was an enthusiastic Talmid of Kabbalah. Remember that point in time, there was a bastion of Kabbalah learning in the mystical city of Tzfat, one holy cities of Jerusalem, very much at that point in time. Now, I believe he was actually born in the Papal States in Osino. This was in the year 1530. He would later on go and pass away in the Duchy of Mantua in the year 1593 in Mantua, naturally. He would publish various different great books, including the Photsot Yehуда, that was in Venice in the year 1588, and in Lemberg, I think way later on, a few hundred years later, in the year 1859. This would contain as many as 52 sermons. This was, which would, let's say, inaugurate a new epoch in homiletic literature at that stage in time. It would be a brilliant, very important book, and most of these were delivered in Hebrew or in the Italian language. And while they, let's say, observe the rules of rhetoric, they deal with the subjects naturally and without forced exegesis. This was just reading it from Wikipedia. Its other printed work was printed in Venice in the year 1594. It was called the Kol Yehuda. This was actually the first commentary on the Kuzari of Rabbi Yehuda Levi. Since this fact would at once secure for it a wide circulation, the rabbis, I think Sibidali and Saraval of Mantua, urged him, would make an urging for him to publish this book at that point in time. And it appeared posthumously, and since then has, let's say, been printed together with the Kuzari in many editions. Now, Rabbi Moscato wrote poetry also, especially elegies on the passings of friends and scholars, including one on the death of the famous Rabbi Yosef Kari, the author of the Code of Jewish Law. Remember, he passed away probably about 10-20 years before Rabbi Moscato had passed away. Three of his elegies, let's just say, on the death of the Duchess of Margherita of Savoy, she, I think, passed away in the year 1574, have recently become known in more recent times. There's an actually excerpt that's taken from Rabbi Moscato's book called Kol Yehuda. I'm quoting it from Wikipedia. I've given the source. I'll say it over. Should it not be believed that the great and awe-inspiring story, which is the basis and essence of this book, the Kuzari, by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, it's true and really happened? If that were not so, why would the author of the book lie? For he wrote in the beginning of his book, as it has been recorded and known from historical works, he repeated that in the introduction to the second part of his book, that this is what happened afterwards with regard to the Kuzari, as it is known in the books of the Kuzari. Obviously, this translation was by Rabbi Gershon Bernard, I believe. Now, Rabbi Moscato will cite other people, including Ibn Rushd and Rabbi Avram Bajo, I think he was a rabbi, arguing that the source of all knowledge and science was of King Solomon, and the Greek philosophy is borrowed from the Jews. He would very much advocate for that. He was also a philosopher. He was also a musician, and as well as everything else. Now, I think it was when, at around the age of 24, I think it was after Pope Paul the fourth or sixth issued the bill called the Kom Nimis Amsterdam. He moved to Mantua and lived in the house of his relative called the Minci Bilitaro. When he was in Mantua, just about Mantua, just to backtrack a bit, he became a member of the group of sages over there, including members of the Provinciali family. We spoke about them before, especially the elder brother, Rabbi Moshe Provinciali, we did a video on just before, who would become the, let's say, distinguished rabbi and the chief rabbi over there. He would learn Torah from Rabbi Provinciali, but he would also receive the incentive to study external wisdom, of which Rabbi Moshe himself was very knowledgeable. While during his learning, let's just say, he devoted time to study languages, philosophy and history, and was considered second to none. He had complete command of Hebrew, Aramaic, Latin, Italian, Greek, and music, let's just say. And what's the name Moscato? What does it mean? It is a well-known Italian name, as is the name of Minister of Education during the reign of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, his name was Count Pietro Moscato. I'm not too sure if they're related. Usually the nickname added to a sage's name indicates the name of the city, the birthplace, or his occupation. What was that naturally? And the name Moscato does not mention any place of Rabbi Yehuda's past. Therefore, several reasons have been suggested for adding the name Moscato to his name. The meaning of the word Moscato naturally is a fly. We know that from Mosca, which is how Rabbi Yehuda chose to express the quality of humility. So maybe that was, let's say, a connoting fact. Or perhaps it points out the names of plants whose fruits or flowers smell good, Malva Moschata. Or perhaps the fact that he was an expert in music theory. That might have been. Now, let's just say, he gains most of his fame from his abilities as a rabbi that gives over grandiose sermons and educating people to teach over Torah. I think in the 17th century, other important rabbis such as Rabbi Yehuda Arie Modena, Rabbi Simcha Luzzatto, and Rabbi Azri Figo were known in Italian Jewry. Now, Rabbi Moscato was their first and foremost. He transformed, as it was needed, into a methodical system of ideas, which, let's say, to this day even serves as a tool of preparation and guidance for modern Jewish preacher, especially the Nutzufot Yehudá, which I mentioned about a few minutes ago. He published 52 sermons, the number of weeks of the year. And let's just say, many of these preachers, rabbis and educators would use his sermons on the basis of their sermons. Rabbi Moscato combines his extensive, let's say, Torah knowledge in his sermons. They would have like a broad education and use rich vocabulary and was very, very fluent in knowledge. He was a man known of many disciples and versatile in his inclinations and knowledge. He strove to blend within himself a deep love for the Torah of Israel and use the wisdom of the nations that he admired. Let's say this inclination was also expressed in the polemic surroundings in the book called the Mea Eneim to Rabbi Azariah of the Reds, let's say. While many sages of that period sent letters to Rabbi Azariah full of sharpness and maybe rebuttals and arguments, some would not necessarily even read the book over there. Rabbi Yehuda was content with expressing mild criticism and reservations about some of the opinions presented in the book, which conveyed to Rabbi Azariah, however, in a friendly letter that he sent to him. Now, it's very interesting. It was into music also, and among the book was obviously the 52 sermons, which was printed, I think, in Venice in 1588 and in Lviv in 1859, Lemberg naturally. Kol Yehuda was a commentary on the Kazari, printed in Venice in 1594, and he would do a commentary on Song of Songs, which was mentioned, I think, on several occasions over here. So he was a great rabbi at his time. He was a great Italian rabbi. We mentioned about him on various occasions before inside this series. And just to note, one of the rabbis he was very close to was Rabbi Provincial, who we mentioned about just before we did a video on him, just to clarify within regards to him. He was a famous posek and Hebrew grammarian. He passed away in the year 1576. And he was infamous, Rabbi Provincial, especially for the Tamari Venturosa divorce scandal, which occurred around the 1564 time period, which actually involved the rabbis of Salonika and also of Tzfat inside this robust debate. He was also Rabbi Provincial, the author of the Shut Rabbeinu Moshe Provincial, the Biu Inyan Shnei Kiyum Gomatria B'Sof, I think based on Moreh Nevuchim, the Elad Varim, which would have been on that topic of divorce we spoke about before. I got odds on Sefer Bechinat Olam. This was connected to Rabbi Judah Moscato. The B'Shem Kadmon. This was on grammar, Hebrew grammar, and so on and so forth. So, friends, wishing you all well. We are a community here. We're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. If you happen to send for any of the rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information. If anyone's interested in watching these videos, share these videos with other people. A special treat. I'll leave you with some scenes here in the middle of Jerusalem, in the Yafi Nof area, and enjoy and subscribe to the channel. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. It's a special treat, some scenes in Jerusalem. Wishing you all well. Take care and subscribe to the channel.